Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's me, Eric, your host. We talk about eclectic DIY. Today, we're going to talk about something out of left field. The film director and artist David Lynch. I don't know if many of you know about this, but I started out working in photography and commercial filmmaking before I became a YouTube D-list celebrity. That was a joke. But anyway, I have always been fascinated by making films since at least sixth grade, maybe. I remember my father had a Kodak Super 8 camera, and I was big into hanging out the library then, and I probably found a book on making movies there and discovered that you could do simple animation with this Kodak camera. You could put a shutter release cable into the there's a little trigger button to turn on the movie making machine, and it would do one frame at a time. It would do stop motion animation essentially. And I barely knew what I was doing, but I made videos about like plastic cars getting into car accidents and things like this. So, that just came into my head. That's a memory I haven't had for a really long time. And then, of course, I being a guy, I like to blow things up. So back then, you could go buy fireworks fairly inexpensively, and you didn't even have to be an adult to get them. So I shot some videos of the plastic cars getting blown up by firecrackers. And I didn't really know anything about, frames per second or a frame rate as it is called, and like over cranking the camera so you can get a slow motion effect. For you all that are brought up on iPhones, you can hit the slow motion function on your phone's video. And what it's doing there is it's shooting 60 or 120 frames per second as opposed to it's usually shooting 30 frames a second. So it's photographing that image, that thing in front of the camera, a lot more in 1 second. And then you're usually projecting or playing film or video at 24 frames a second or 30 frames a second. It's actually 29.96, but we call it 30. In Europe, a lot of things are shown at 25 frames per second, old school TV. Anyway, but so I started with that, and in high school, I made a movie for my senior English literature class. We had to write a term paper, I guess. We had to write some kind of a big paper. And Dr. Paul Hirth was my teacher. And I walked up to him and said, because I didn't really like writing. And I said, could I make a movie for my final paper or final project? And he said, oh, absolutely. And he his eyes lit up, And I collaborated with my friend Wesley Lyles, who I don't know where he is now, but back then he was one of those kids that did not fit in school, but we were friends, and I realized he was incredibly smart and incredibly creative. And we just kind of sat down and sketched out this movie. And I kind of wanted it to be about people kind of disappearing and reappearing with a soundtrack from, not Def Leppard. I'm gonna remember the band's name later on. But anyway, and he brought in because we had studied surrealism in class and like Jean-Paul Sartre. And so he brought some of that in there as well. So we had narration, we had me appearing and disappearing. We went to a quarry and a lime kiln outside of town. And we shot this all on, at that point I had a better Super 8 camera because I worked at the Cool Camera store in St. Louis. I got a job there. I started mowing the owner's lawn because I kept coming in there asking for a job. And he said, you go mow my lawn. And so I started mowing his lawn, and he finally gave me a job at the store. And that was pretty cool, I thought. Anyway, so we could shoot stop frame. We could actually shoot some slow motion with that camera. And we could also, more importantly, shoot sound. And I also had a projector that had 2 audio tracks that you could record on, which was incredibly unusual for the time. And we were just in my basement cutting this thing together, very analog, splicing the Super 8 together with tape and a little plastic splicing gizmo thing. Wow, this is bringing back a lot of, what is the name of the band? It'll come to me. It'll be a band. Oh yeah, of course, Eric. Anyway, so through that, I went to school for a degree in film and photography. It was like a 1 degree. You could pick your, I guess, did you want to study more photography than film? I took, I think, more photo classes than film classes. I kind of thought the film people were like deep into documentary stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't move me at all. And of course now I'm all about that. And in college they had a theater in the student center, I guess it's called, where it was a cafeteria and you could hang out, and the bookstore and all that. And they had a movie theater, and I was with my kind of cinema friends, Ted and Patrick, and we watched Eraserhead, which is David Lynch's it was his breakthrough movie. He started doing it in school, and it became, I don't know if you would call it a feature film, but if you've ever heard of Eraserhead, you know what I'm talking about. And it was completely whack. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I didn't really realize it at the time, that the impression that it had on me, or that David Lynch would have on me going forward. But parallel to this in my younger years was this kind of disconnect that I saw between television's portrayal of American life and what was really going on in America. I mean, even in the kind of bucolic subdivisions and houses and towns I grew up in, there was always this disconnect between the beautifulness and perfectness of the Brady Bunch versus what was going on the street I lived on. The parents across the street getting a divorce, and the kids kind of acting out, very angry or regressing. And the kind of disconnect, it was just kind of a big disconnect for me, I guess is the word. And I think basically when I started watching more of David Lynch's work, that was also what he was talking about. This is going on. How long have I been talking? Oh, only 9 minutes about Eric's life. But anyway, I think kind of the aha moment for me with David Lynch, as far as wow, that's amazing, was Twin Peaks. The first season of that was television that I'd never seen before. And it was pretty whack, because most TV shows, it was a murder mystery show. In the first act of a 60-minute program was the murder, and then the second act was the investigation, and then the third act was finding the murderer. And in the first season of Twin Peaks, that didn't happen. David Lynch specifically did not want to reveal who was the murderer, because there was a mystery to the world. He says this all much better than I do. But in that show, you had this beautiful town with a sawmill and waterfalls and this beautiful hotel, and yet there was a dark underside to everything, and maybe more dark than where I grew up, in New Jersey and Wisconsin. But I was really kind of amazed by that. And interestingly enough, for the second season of Twin Peaks, if you watch that one, it kind of choked, because the network forced the producers to reveal who killed Laura Palmer. And David Lynch left the production because they were going to be forced to do this. And he said, I won't do that. So is his name David Frost? Mark Frost was his producing partner, continued the season and finished it out. And it became kind of a soap opera. I mean, it was a soap opera in the beginning, but it was like crazy soap opera. And then he made a movie, a follow-up movie to that, which was pretty good. And then a couple years ago, he made season 3 of Twin Peaks for Showtime, which I watched, and it was just amazing. It still is amazing, I think. A lot of it I did not understand, but I thought this is the work of an incredibly creative person. And he really was, because I kind of follow him through the media. He actually directed TV commercials. He made music videos for people. He made his own art, and was basically someone who kind of lived the life he wanted and also worked within Hollywood to a point, but he wasn't beholden to the Hollywood machine like a lot of other people were. He was also very big into transcendental meditation, which I'll read from the Wikipedia entry here. Transcendental meditation is a form of silent meditation developed by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. The TM technique involves silent repetition of a mantra or sound and is practiced for 15 to 20 minutes twice per day. It's taught by certified teachers through a standard course of instruction with a cost that varies by country and individual circumstance. According to the Transcendental Movement, it's a non-religious method that promotes relaxed awareness, stress relief, self-development, and higher states of consciousness. So I do meditation. I guess mine's called regular meditation. I don't know. It's just I use the Headspace app. It's called Headspace meditation, maybe. But anyway, he talks about this a lot when he's doing interviews, and just the kind of eye-opening moments that he's had because of that. So it sounds interesting to me. There's a little clip here I found on YouTube, which I want to drop in right here.
This is a donut. It is very sweet and very good. But if you've never tasted a donut, you wouldn't really know how sweet and how good a donut is if you've never had that experience. Transcendental meditation is like that. Transcendental meditation gives an experience much sweeter than the sweetness of this donut. It gives the experience of the sweetest nectar of life, pure bliss consciousness. As Maharishi says, those who don't know, they don't know. Those who know, they enjoy.
So that clip was from a YouTube video called David Lynch Explains Transcendental Meditation by Rodrigo Natari. And in the notes here, he says this video was created with excerpts from the documentary Meditation, Creativity, and Peace from the David Lynch Foundation. It's kind of interesting. I think I want to check this out some more. When he talks about it, it's like, wow. I mean, I do meditation, and it really helps me deal with what I call their hamster wheel in my brain. But is there more? Is there more there? That'd be kind of interesting to find out. I have watched some of the other movies he's done. There's a couple that are a little too violent for me. I just don't like violence in movies. But the Mulholland Drive was amazing. I did not see Elephant Man because I know it would freak me out. I saw Dune and Blue Velvet. Lost Highway was amazing. I really thought Lost Highway was amazing. Wild at Heart was one that I did not watch. It just wasn't for me. Dune was kind of interesting because it was such a step away from Eraserhead or Elephant Man. And then Blue Velvet was like, wow. And a side story to that is I met Isabella Rossellini once in a farmer's field in Long Island. Okay, so there was a beekeeper out on Long Island. I wanted to be another nuke, a nuke of bees. In other words, a nucleus hive of bees for one of my beehives here in Brooklyn. So I pre-ordered one with a beekeeper in Long Island, and he kept all his bees on an organic farmer friend's fields. So I drove out there at the appointed date. It was in the spring. And it was a kind of typical beekeeper kind of guy, has a great gray beard. Why do they all have gray beards, And then this other car pulls up, and this man and this kind of striking woman come out. And the beekeeper says, "Oh, hi, Eric, this is Isabel. Isabel is Eric." I'm like, hi. And I immediately know who she is. And I'm not going to be like, "Oh, wow, Isabella Rossellini, oh, I love your movies," because I know, having worked with people like that they don't really need that. I think for the most part from my working with famous people, they just want to be like you and I. Well, some of them don't. I won't tell those stories because that's not nice. But so we just had a nice chat, and then she has an organic farm on Long Island, and she said, "Oh, I'd like to learn more about the vegetables here." And so the beekeeper introduced her to the farmer, the organic farmer, and they went off talking. And the beekeeper guy's like, "You know who that is?" I said, "Yeah, I know who that is. It's okay." So I got my bees and I left. But very nice lady. And I heard an interview recently from her, and I think it was on perhaps Fresh Air. But yeah, quite a life, really interesting life, and a very cool person. But the David Lynch thing, there's just this parallel between he and I think, between the glossy veneer of life, American life especially, versus what's really there. And I like to take pictures of stuff that a lot of people probably don't understand, but there's just a lot of it's about the disconnect between this enigmatic world we allegedly live in versus the world that really is. I kind of focus on signage, like pretty whack signage, stuff like that. And I send it to a couple friends of mine, and some of them get it and some of them don't. And I keep threatening to put out a book of that stuff. So yeah, maybe you could nudge me about that. Anyway, this is completely not a usual Garden Fork radio podcast, but when David Lynch passed, I just was like, I had a lot of thoughts about him. The New York Times has a 5 separate articles about him passing, a traditional obituary, several of the film, the head lead film critic writing about him, a couple other people writing about his effect on the filmmaking world, really, and people like me. So yeah, I don't know if you're interested in that or not. If you have some thoughts about David Lynch, let me know. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. Next week, we'll be back with maybe a little bit more of a regular show. In the after show here, I'm going to talk about some more of the kind of filmmaking experiences I've had and my career into working on TV commercials and movies and stuff like that. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, there's information in the show notes here. I just asked for a cup of coffee a month and you get a bunch of cool behind the scenes stuff. So go out and do cool stuff. Make it a great day. I'll see you. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.